So this past week, I had a couple of posts that went viral. And another nurse that I met on Instagram, No Jab Nurse, about a year ago, is here to join me discussing her viral post that she had this weekend or this past week. And it is Jamie Lynn, who is also known as No Jab Nurse. Welcome, Jamie. We never thought we would be in this space of like social media influencers, did we?
Not for 1 second.
No. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about you and how you became so wildly popular?
Well, wow. Thanks for that because I don't think I've ever been popular in my life. So that was nice to hear. But, I've been a nurse for almost 20 years and I've really enjoyed every second of it. And then, of course, COVID hit and kind of threw our entire industry into complete chaos. Um, and it was really an awakening experience for me because all of a sudden I'm realizing that everything that I've dedicated my life to is not what I thought that it was.
Yeah.
And so God kind of tore my entire life down. And now, he's been building it up ever since then. And so I actually started on Instagram. And I really got into it because I found that it was an avenue for me to not just reach people that were experiencing the same things that I was, but you know how life is as a nurse.
Yeah.
It's amplified on social media. So when people find out that you're a nurse, they start just telling you all kinds of personal
Right.
information.
That's
And
right.
so people, started reaching out to me. And so I started having these real conversations with everyday Americans.
Mhm.
And I came to find out that there are so many people that we have the same goals, we have the same concerns, we have the same belief systems. And there's this disconnect that's going on inside our own country. And there's so much division, even though there's actually so much unity. But
Mhm.
there are these people out there that are pulling these strings that are trying to make everybody fight with everybody. And so my whole social media experience just kind of blew up because I was being real and I was posting things that was
Right.
happening and talking about them. And I don't know, some people like it, some people really hate me. I'm sure I have a lot of trolls. I don't know. I enjoy it though. It's fun for me.
Well, I appreciate the courage that you've demonstrated in speaking up as a nurse because so many nurses were forced into silence and compliance. They
Yeah.
they were threatened and say, if you speak and about anything against the narrative, we're going to remove your license. You're going to be dealt with, essentially,
Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
and for women like you and I that laugh at that, really, truly. I mean, it's not that we have a lot of money and we had a huge bank account. I mean, we're both single women, single
Yep.
mothers,
Yep.
and but what we saw happening was against every single ethical principle that we took an oath to stand, not to
Yep.
mention the way in which the world that we see our children living in, you know? And
That's the scary part.
yeah, that it is the scary part. And so we're going to talk about some things that are happening in the news. We do want to discuss Israel because here's another thing that I found out, guys. The ones that are speaking out primarily that you see that have these followings in your hearing, they all have courage. And what is courage? Courage is choosing faith over fear, essentially, is what it is. You have fear standing you in the face, and you are saying, no, I'm still not going along with it. And for most of us, it's our belief in God and the Holy Spirit guiding us to walk in his will and not your own, and just to trust in him, essentially, is to trust in the truth. Jesus is the truth, the life, and the way. And we need to remember that. That's also why it's important to know scripture, right? To get closer to him. So Yeah, Jamie, let's start off with my post. My post, I received a message from someone, and he said, "Excellent point you make about people claiming to be forced to take the jab. I am a massage therapist and educator. My field is 75% liberal minded. I felt the pressures hard from leadership organizations and regular therapists clamoring I should be a better example and just take the jab. Despite the pressures, I have never taken the jab. Love to say that. No regrets." And I took a screenshot of that and I posted it with my commentary on the top that said, "Unless you were tied down and shot up against your will, you weren't forced. You were coerced and you complied." And then in the description, I say, "Words matter. Take a look at my last few posts to see what I'm up to now." Oh, but that's because I'm talking about the truth movement, right? This is a private community that I have created to bring together women of faith to increase their confidence so they have the courage to walk in their calling in a community. I'm so tired of, just really interacting on social media. I wanted something more intimate and say, okay, yes, guys, I hear you. I hear your struggles. We've all had the same struggles. Now let's gather together in a community and encourage, empower, uplift, and heal from all of this and make a difference in your own community. So I'm wanting to equip women to do that. And so if you are interested, it ends today, and it's only open to the founding members until today. It ends tonight at midnight, and it's jodyomalleyrn.com/truth, or you can just go to jodyomalleyrn.com and check it out and see what that's about. It is a monthly membership, and we are hosting Dr. Artis as our first expert, then Dr. McCullough. There will be weekly audio teachings, and I'm just bringing in all sorts of people, but even people like Jamie. Jamie's going to come into the group and speak to the group about courage. And so this is where I'm really collecting my network together to encourage and inspire. And so, yes. So having said that, Jamie, what were your thoughts when you first saw this post? Because I certainly got a variety of responses.
Oh, I'm sure you did, because living in the generation that we live in, we all know that people aren't the biggest fans of truth.
Mm-hmm.
They really like truth wrapped in bacon so that it's more palatable to them. Um, so when I first read it, I was like, "Whoo, dang girl." Like, you are not holding back anything, and you're not wrong, because that is just the blunt truth of the matter. If you were not tied down, and if you were not forced to take the shot, if they were not stabbing you in the arm with the shot,
Mm-hmm.
then you were compliant.
Yeah.
And it hurts because I have a lot of friends that say that they were, forced to take the jab. And it's just not true, because you could have quit your job. There are so many other options out there. And as two nurses that refuse to back down and refuse to bow down to the powers that be, because we knew that it wasn't right,
Right.
um, it can be a little offensive on our side too,
Mm-hmm.
because we said no and we dealt with the repercussions. We lost jobs, we lost friends, we lost family members
Right.
for the refusal. Um, People come up against, my license and my experience and all of these other things because I refuse to take it. Well, who are you? Why are you better than anybody else? Don't you care about your grandma? Isn't she more important than,
Right.
your will? Because that's what they bring it down to.
Yeah.
It just, we're unwilling
Mm-hmm.
to, do the greater good or whatever. But I think the people that are going to see the truth have already seen it. I'm not sure how many people are left out there that haven't seen the lie for the lie. I
Yeah.
don't wanna sound like hopeless by any means, but it feels very much like Noah's Ark. Like, the people that are gonna be, in the ark are in the ark. And the people that are still gonna believe the lie,
Mhm.
they're still out there, marrying, partying, like, doing what they wanna do, and then going to the doctors and getting jabbed with poison.
Yeah, and so, I had somebody get, say, look it up an illegal definition, and they said when you are coerced, it is a form of being forced. And I get that. I do get that. What I am trying to say, because words do matter, when people are taking the out and saying, "Oh, my job forced me to do it, so I had to do it to feed my family." Don't think for 1 second I'm not empathetic of that. I am very empathetic of it. I understand. I am a single mom. I did not want to lose my six-figure government job. Like, there was so many things I didn't want to lose. And so, but that's the thing. It's like when people keep saying, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I was forced too. Yep, I was forced. Yep, I tried to get it, but I was forced." Here's my question to you. Number 1, did you want to take it? If that answer is no, then you got to think about it for a second, because why did you take it? Number 2, did you have something in your spirit saying, "Don't do it"? But you did it anyway because you had to feed your family. You see where I'm coming from, Jamie? That's
Yeah.
where my whole, reason for posting this is, because you can't stop saying you were forced, because when I hear forced, yeah, exactly, physically tied down.
Yeah. No, I mean, your point of view makes total sense, and you're absolutely right because words are very important, especially in this day and age.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure how many people like how intelligent are we when we use our words? Because now we have like text messaging, we can't even spell things correctly anymore. So
Right.
we just we just go around saying, all kinds of crazy
Yeah.
information that may or may not be true. I agree with you though. I mean, unless, they were absolutely tied down and a needle shoved in their arm, I don't believe that for a sec. I think it's an excuse. I think it maybe there's a little bit of regret there, and so it's an easier way of them like nullifying the situation almost like, oh well, I was
Mhm.
forced to do it. They forced me to get it. Did they?
Right. Right. Did they now I did receive some comments from wives and mothers that say that their husbands that were in the military were put into the military prison for 6 months or more, and physically tied down to take it.
Shut up.
I actually had a conversation with somebody off of social media because I'm encouraging them to come forward. Hopefully he will, but it was a 19-year-old, and we also have to understand age too, right? So if you have these new military members that are young, 18, 19, 20 years old, and they're coming into the military, they don't really know their rights to begin with, right?
Right.
They don't, most of them don't have the courage established to actually stand up. And so some of them did stand up, and their commanders were, they had to go, their basic training lasted, they said, 3 times longer than it normally should have, trying to get our military to comply. And she said all of them except 2 that took the shot all got like deathly ill. And so I'm hoping there's a lawsuit in there somewhere, because that is horrific. Now, that is being forced against your will to do it. But when you roll up your sleeve to protect your paycheck, that's something different, in my opinion. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you bring that up too, because now that I'm remembering, I have a friend who works at our local school, and her daughter was going in for like boot camp. What's like the initial, what is that
Hmm.
called?
Boot camp. Yeah.
Well, whatever that is, like their initial boot camp or whatever it is. And so they kind of sequester these new recruits for however long, like an 8-week boot camp, whatever. So really tough training. And then at the end, that's when their family is allowed, after two
Yes.
months
When
of
they
not seeing their
graduate.
family,
Hmm.
then they're allowed to see their family. Their families are allowed on base and all of this stuff. So these kids, these are the ones that the military officials are like, well, if you haven't gotten the jab up until
Yeah.
this point, then your families are not allowed on base and
Hmm.
you're not allowed to see your families. And basically, like, we're going to go ahead and transfer you to Timbuktu and you're going to be over there for 2 years and you're still not going to see your family.
Yep.
So I mean, there was some coercion, if you want to look at coercion in that direction,
Yeah.
um, eh, to that situation. But I think there's a pretty definitive line between reality of being forced to
Hmm.
do something
Hmm.
and choice, right?
Right. Right.
Because you're really choosing your job over the potential effects or whatever it is by getting the jab. And
Yes.
I think that's the difference you were trying to make.
And there is, yeah, like there's a vaccine injured woman that I know. Two of her kids were in the military. It was same story. He was graduating for boot camp. She said that, and she's a nurse. She did not want to take it, but she took it so she could see her son graduate from boot camp. And she's injured.
Yeah.
And then it's horrific. I know a few of them that are like that. And again, my heart bleeds for them. Like I understand, it's just, I think this is a good transition too, is also let's talk about faith and talk about hearing that still small voice, because
Yeah.
I'd like to think, well, I know what I would have done if they told me that I needed to take that job to stay in my job, even forget about all the corruption that I exposed. Let's just say that they changed or whatever, but I wouldn't have done it. There's no way
Right.
I would have done it. And I wasn't looking at it like it was the mark of the beast or anything like that. I was looking at it that this is the precursor for the mark of the beast to come in. And we're really getting a bird's eye view of how many people will comply and take the mark,
Yes.
in order to buy, sell, or trade, right? Like they're going to
Yeah.
cut off your family's head in front of you. Like, are you going to take it or not?
Right. I think you're so much further along in that than I was during the time because I my mind never went there. Like
Mm,
I was not seeing all of the corruption and the correlations yet. But when you talk about a still small voice, that's exactly what it was for me. God placed something specific in my spirit that just said no.
mhm.
I can't tell you why, I don't know, because, um, prior to having my daughter, I was one of those nurses that was totally brainwashed, like, you do what the doctor tells you, and you
Yep.
take as many vaccinations as he tells you to do, and, all of these things.
Mhm.
But then it's just kind of a revelatory process, between you and God. But you have to listen to the Holy Spirit. You have to engage with God. You've got to build that relationship. The Bible says that my sheep will know my voice.
Yeah.
And so, even if he doesn't come to you in a whirlwind and knock you upside the head, which I enjoy that kind of response the most, because then I
Right.
know that I know that I know, you know.
Like the burning bush outside your door.
I would take that every day of the week.
Yes.
Oh,
No, I agree with you. Well, let's talk a little bit about your viral recording that also, is about courage. And
yeah.
so we're going to cue it up. Jamie is going to talk about what you're actually seeing here. I'll share a few seconds of it and then we'll stop it, but I just need you to hear this.
Après la carte, je vais faire couler de l'eau sur le front du juge. Et
That
après,
cried so hard.
on va embrasser le bonhomme. Parce que il sera devenu un petit chrétien. Oh là 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 là.
So it
Je
looks like
dirai
a
plus
baptism
quoi.
that they're doing. I guarantee if you look under his robe, he has red shoes on. I'm mortified watching this. I mean, it's physically painful for me to
Yeah.
watch this happen. And I think the parents, I don't know like what kind of dynamic this is, but I think they're a little bit in shock, right? Because like you have this public decorum that you're expected to maintain during a
Mhm.
situation like that, and you have this priest who you probably trust, you know, you're going to church there. You have some level of expectation, you've seen this done before. And so then to see him step up and abuse this child is horrifying. Even this lady in the back, she's got to work at the church. She's like pulling on the priest's arms, like, okay, that's enough,
Yep.
you know?
Mhm.
And I've gotten so many comments, and people are like, what took this guy so long? That's crazy. And I'm like, listen, there is so much cognitive dissonance in the world right now that we're experiencing.
Yeah.
It's not surprising to me that it took his brain a couple of seconds to register, you know, what was taking place.
Right. Yeah, I didn't hear if you teed it up because I was hearing the baby cry. Did you tell the listeners what they were seeing?
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, I think it was a
Looks like it was a
baptismal ceremony.
baptism. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen this kind of thing before. I have not seen this a priest do this before. But there was one instance. Now, this happened in a different country, so I don't know if it's like a cultural difference or what, because the parents were like, oh, this is totally normal. But it was a much smaller baby. It was like an infant, to where he took the baby. He actually dunked the baby in the water and was kind of shaking the baby.
Mhm.
So, but the parents in that situation acted like it was totally normal.
Totally normal.
So
Yeah.
I've seen that, but this is a totally different story. I
Well, it
mean,
is. So you have the mom that's holding the baby, and the dad is
yes,
standing next to her. The priest is doing his blessing. The baby is screaming, right? Which
yeah,
that's normal. But the baby's what, probably 6 months old, maybe 5 months
yeah,
old, maybe 3 months, 3 to 6 months old. And the priest actually slaps the baby,
yes,
and you
yes,
see the father kind of look, but the mother is just standing there. But then he has his hand underneath the child's jaw, and
yes,
he's like kind of shaking it. The dad kind of smiles while he's doing that, but then the slap comes.
right.
And then the priest takes the baby into his chest and is holding him there forcefully as the child is moving his arms trying to get
Almost
away.
smothering the
Yes.
child.
Yes.
Oh, it's horrifying. But you know, there have been a lot of comments that, you know, the man moved too slow and yada yada. But I'm like, listen, I am super proud of this man
Mhm.
for stepping up and doing his duty, because that is his job.
Yes.
He is the protector of family. And I was so proud of him for like waking up and reaching in and grabbing that child.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm a different kind of mom, so I'm more independent, and I've raised my daughter
Mhm.
alone.
Yeah.
And so I think I probably would have stepped in a little bit faster and done something.
Yes.
But I think given in that situation, you know, again with this just almost like Pavlov's dog. You know,
Mhm.
you're taught your whole life to walk in a line at school and not say anything, and it's a yes sir and a no ma'am, and you know, so
Right.
you're taught all of these submissive traits that when you're caught in a situation like that, I think it would take your brain a minute to catch up and realize this is actually happening.
Yes. Yes, and it's a priest, and I have heard so many stories of nuns knowing, and even nuns abusing, but the clergy knowing that something was happening that was bad in the church, and they said, well, the Catholic Church does so much good, so we're going to let this one go. And it's wild to me to think that
Wild.
that is appropriate. It's like, how are you not protecting your flock, right? You're saying, oh, we do so much good, so we can't tarnish our bad reputation.
Don't get me started on the Catholic Church, Jody.
Hey, I'm
There
down.
is
I'm down to
there
hear
is
it.
so much to that. I've heard many times over that in the book of Revelation that the whore that rides the beast, that's the Catholic Church.
Well, you know
So
what? Let's
there's a lot of
hold off
stuff.
on there. I will go to break. When we come back from break, let's pick up on that, because I do believe that where we're at right now is prophetic. It is end time prophecy, and there is all of the war that's going on with Israel. And I know I've talked about it on a couple of shows, but Israel is near and dear to my heart. And so before we go to break, guys, I want to talk to you about ASEA. You have heard me speak about this product, about the redox gel that has just been so amazing at reducing pain in chronic patients, or chronic people that have chronic pain patients. I know several people that deal with arthritis, and they're using it, but I have not highlighted the skincare system that I've been using. I have been using it now for 2 months, and recently I have received a lot of compliments about my skin, that it's glowing. And so that's what I have done different is ASEA, and I use their skincare line. I actually take the water that we have and the redox supplement, and I put that in a spray bottle, and I spray that on my face, and as well as the entire line of the skincare. So I have just noticed that my complexion is more evened out and not as red. And so give that a try. Check it out. You can go to americaoutloud.shop. And as always, all of our America Out Loud listeners receive the exclusive discount not found anywhere else. And so americaoutloud.shop, ASEA, and we will be right back. All right, guys, welcome back. Thank you for joining us on Nurses Out Loud. Remember, we are here 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, with an encore at 11 p.m. And all of our shows go to podcast. We are going to be starting a new format next week, which I am super excited about. Mondays are going to be our Q&A. And so we're taking in all of your questions, and the nurses are gathering together to answer them. So make sure that you are sending your questions or comments to us at nurses@americaoutloud.com. And we look forward to talking about that on air with you. That is going to be every Monday we are doing that. So I'm excited for that. I love interacting with you guys. Even when I go out and I give speeches and stuff, I always open it up for a Q&A if there's time, because I love it. So, all right, Jamie. Yeah, Catholic Church. I'll tell you a little bit about my experience, and then I'll let you roll with it. I was raised in a spirit-filled Pentecostal church. And so I did not have to go to, well, I was forced to go, well, not forced. I I had to comply to go to Catholic school in 7th grade because I was kicked out of the 2 public schools in the neighborhood for fighting. So my parents had to pay for me to go. And I remember going to church, and after like maybe the second or third week, talking to God while I was in there and saying, Lord, I'm sorry, but I don't really feel you here. All we're doing is the same thing over and over: stand, sit, kneel, pray. There's no interaction with the congregation. It's just very robotic. And I remember asking him for forgiveness and telling him, I'm sorry, but I don't feel you here. And that's why I'm not paying attention as a 13-year-old.
That's amazing. I feel like you were strong from the very beginning. Like the
Yeah.
person that God created you, you're just like coming into who she is.
Right. Yes, and I think for a lot of people, maybe they have the same, right? If you're called for a purpose, that's also a good comment to make to people, is to, like, life can beat us down. Life can really beat us down, and we forget the person that we were. And so I hope sharing, you hearing me share my experiences, and Jamie with hers, will encourage you to go back and see, what kind of grit did you have? Did you lose it? Did you just get worn down with monotony and routine, and forget who you were, who God called you to be? So be thinking about that as you listen to our show today.
I love that. And this is such a God thing to do this show today because my life has just been kind of haywire for the past few weeks, especially. And God, He made me buy this book months and months and months ago. And I have not picked it up. And then all of a sudden I'm going through this stuff, and God's like, go back to that book. So I go back to that book. And that book is exactly what I need for exactly what I'm going through right now. It's called how to slay your giants in
Oh.
how to slay the giants in your life. And it's got this one part that is a Mark Twain quote. And Mark Twain says that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. And I thought that
Mhm.
was really profound.
I like that.
But it talks about, the enemy using fear and discouragement and all of these things to fight against you as a child of God.
Yeah.
Um, Man, it's just really good stuff.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. No, it's true. It's like you still have fear. I mean, it's a human response, but are you going to walk in fear and cower down to it, or are you going to rise above it and trust in God to lead you? And
Yeah.
so, did you want to talk about the Catholic Church?
Yeah, I will talk about the Catholic Church all
Okay.
day, every day.
Okay. Were you raised Catholic?
No, I wasn't. So I was raised very similarly to you. We grew up in a very legalistic Pentecostal apostolic background. It was like you can't cut your hair, you can't wear makeup,
Oh, I didn't
you
grow up
know.
like that.
Oh,
Nah.
you didn't?
No, 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 no. It was, I mean, our church was in the inner city next to a liquor store. We would have homeless people, bums come in, prostitutes come in, sit in the back of the church, hang out. Sometimes the stench would be so great, but we would just ignore it and, would obviously open it up. But we were encouraged to wear dresses. Like my mom, had us wear dresses and stuff. But when I got to be like 12 or 13, I'm like, I'm not wearing dresses. And Jesus doesn't tell me that I have to wear dresses, and I'm not doing it. And so I just wouldn't do it. And my preacher never said anything. People never said anything to me, but no, we didn't, we weren't raised like that. Yeah.
Oh, I feel like we would have just been like kicked out of the church
Oh, you
had
and I would
we.
have had a lot of fun together.
Yeah. Yeah. I was very much like a rule follower then, and just kind of like submissive and do what you're told. And but our church was very legalistic.
Mm.
And so we, whatever they preached, you better go home and you better do it, or else you are bound for Satan's hell. It
Okay. Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah. No.
so there's a lot of stuff that goes with that. But the Catholic Church, I have heard it preached and taught for a very, very long time that the woman who rides the beast in Revelation is the Catholic Church,
Mhm.
because it talks about how she is drunk from the cup of iniquity, and how she has all of these children. I think it says something like that.
Okay.
Um, and how a lot of the religions are actually offshoots of the Catholic Church.
Mm.
But the Catholic Church was not always a Christian religion.
Yeah.
It was actually a pagan religion that, in order to continue making money and in order to um, basically stay relevant, incorporated Christianity into the pagan religion
Mm.
because they began as do you know who Nimrod is?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, so that is actually the beginning of Catholicism. And if you ever look at any pictures of Nimrod and his hat that he wears, it looks the the fish's head or
Oh, yes.
whatever. It's kind
Uh-huh.
of split in the middle. Okay, so I think only the Pope wears it, maybe.
Okay.
Um, well, the Pope wears it. So Nimrod, his hat is the exact same hat that the Pope wears.
Mm.
So there's all of these correlations that can be tied back through Catholicism to these pagan religions that throughout the Bible, God, keeps telling the children of Israel, don't partake of their sins, don't bring their stuff in your house, serve the Lord your God. I am the only living God there is.
Right.
And so isn't it just like Satan to take religion and incorporate all of these other things into it so that you think that you're doing the right thing because he actually comes as light and
Yeah.
not darkness, even though we know the difference.
Yes, yes. I think that's probably why there's so many pagan rituals that appear to happen in the Catholic
Yes.
Church, is because, I remember even the priest at the church, he'd go up to the bar on the weekends and he would be playing the cherry master. And I'm like, okay, wait a second. He can drink, he gets drunk, he
Yeah.
plays the cherry master at the bar, but he can't have sex with a woman. Like, he can't get married. Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's just odd. That seems a little controlling to me. Why can he participate in these things but not this? And so it just never made sense to me at all. And you know what I find interesting about the Catholic religion is that every single person that I continue to talk to, which was a lot of people, I still talk to people from seventh grade, but not all the men, they didn't follow the religion, right? They didn't go to church, but when they got married, this is what happens. I've even seen it in my own life. When they get married and they have a child, now they're like, oh, now I got to raise them the way that I was raised because that's the right thing to do. And I want them to have a sense of morality and this and that. And it's like, it's so wild because it should never have been about a religion, but a relationship.
Right.
And I
You're
think,
exactly right.
yeah. And for me, as a child, even when they did want to impose, like, you're supposed to wear a dress and those types of things, I'm like, man, I talk to God. God don't care about that stuff. And they're like, what, Jody? And I'm like, it's my relationship with him. Why don't you worry about your relationship and I'll worry about my own. But as far as like subscribing to this religion and all of that, like, I can't do it. I don't even identify as Christian. Somebody's like, are you a Christian? I say, I'm a follower of Yeshua. I follow
I love
Jesus.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because of how Christians really came out and identified themselves. Well, you know what? Speaking of which, let's close out this show talking about the war in Israel. I mean, that it's been going on now for 11 days. We just had President Biden come there, which is like so wild to me that all of a sudden this man can form a thought. I mean, granted, I do
Can he though?
I mean, it's really cringy to listen to. But, I mean, I do support Israel, but I also support like Hawaii. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
what are your thoughts on all of this, Jamie?
Well, I think you have to use discernment. It's absolutely vital in the world that we're living in right now. So ask yourself, how the most elite military in the world just happens to allow all of these Hamas military in through their, I mean, they have the Iron Dome, for
Yeah.
gosh sakes. Like, this thing goes off if a cat walks by.
Yeah.
And you're going to tell me that they just walked up when military is always stationed at these places in the fence, but Hamas just walks up, cuts the fence, and goes through? I
I
mean,
yeah, I do follow. Do you know who Amir Safari is?
yes, I think I do.
Yeah, I follow him on Telegram, and so every day he has a couple hundred posts, and I can, I mean, okay, let's continue your point, because I I don't think that's your whole point, but I get it.
No, not at all.
At first I was like, how did this happen? But yet it
Yes,
happened, and
yes.
so what are your thoughts with that?
So my thoughts is it screams 9/11 to me, um, because we had a lot of questions about 9/11. All of a sudden now we have this brand new enemy. We've got to go fight them. We've got to start a war, you know. So my concern with everything that's happening is there are real living human souls that are being harmed. I don't care if they are black, green, yellow, blue. I don't care where they live, whether they're north or south. It does not matter to me. These are human beings that are being murdered, raped, pillaged, children that are, I'm sure, are involved, even though,
Yeah.
they're using some videos that have been proven to be falsified. Um, but real war is against our class of people, not the
Mhm.
elites,
Yeah.
not Joe Biden, not the criminals that run the world.
Mhm.
They use war to depopulate our level of people, not their level of people.
Yeah.
They want to create these 15-minute cities to get us all in one place so that they have even more control. And I feel like this war in Israel is, yes, we pray for the people of Israel. I absolutely believe that, but we also use discernment, and we look at this in the aspect that, are they starting World War III by doing this? Are they
Mhm.
dragging America into another war to fight? Because we've already
Who's they?
militarized
Who's
Ukraine.
they? Hamas?
I would not say Hamas. I would say the elite. Who's running the world?
Mhm.
WEF, Klaus Schwab, uh, the Rothschilds. I don't know. Whoever these people are that we don't really know who they are, but we know that there are people out there that are using their money and their resources and their influence to cause things to happen economically and
Yeah.
um in all kinds of ways, socially, in all kinds of aspects, in every country. So are they using this as another way to kind of deconstruct the United States of America from within? Because
Well,
now we're going to be placed in the Middle East. We're going to be fighting in Ukraine.
mhm.
Taiwan is getting ready to blow up.
Yeah.
Um, Putin has already come out and said that the de-dollarization of the world, it's happening.
Mhm.
Like, currently, right now, he came out and he's talking about how they want to back everything up with the yuan. And I just think that maybe it would behoove us to not believe everything that we're fed. Just like with COVID, you
Mhm.
have to use some level of discernment and
Yeah.
decide for yourself.
So do you think America should be there?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I think not right now, not at this point. Are you going to tell me that Gaza and Hamas is really putting up? First of all, Israel and the United States came up with Hamas. They're the ones that created Hamas. So, are you going to tell me that this small little group of people needs two nations, superior nations, to defeat them? I just feel like it is another avenue for them to start another war, to funnel more money. Look how much money we've given Ukraine already.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're going to do it in Israel. Like,
So
how
tell
about
me,
you?
how do you think that the United States and Israel created Hamas? What does that mean?
So they actually created Hamas as a way to fight the original Palestinians. So they were coming up against Israel, and they were just kind of causing it's kind of like a thorn in Israel's side, right? So then they come up with this terrorist organization, which that is what Hamas is. It's not the true Palestinian people.
Mm-hmm.
So they create this the CIA. I'm telling you, these three-letter organizations need to burn in a very southern region that's very hot. But they they create this third party thinking that this terrorist organization would then fight the Palestinians, so the Palestinians weren't fighting Israel. So it's
Okay.
like triangulation. Are you familiar with narcissism at all? Because
Yes. It hits a little close to home. Let me tell you. Yeah, I mean, I look at it like the Palestinian people, like Israel came back to their land in 1948, right?
right.
God, it's
That being the
biblical.
key.
That being the
Their
key,
land.
their land, it's
Their
Israel's
land.
land. Yes.
Yes.
They came back to it in 1948. This is biblical, this is prophetic.
Right.
And they came in, and ever since they came in, every single country surrounding them, and people have to understand that Israel is as small as New Jersey. It's tiny. And
Yeah.
every single country around them has been wanting to attack them and get them out because they hate the Jews. They just cannot stand the Jews, and they do not want Israel having their land. But if we go back biblically with Abraham, right, and his wife Sarah, and God's promise to Abraham, he will give him a son, right, and he will, be, spread his seed as many as there are stars and sand, right?
Right.
But then where that came in is because Abraham's first son, because Sarah said to sleep with the maid because she wasn't trusting in God.
Right.
The woman messed it up, right? The woman messed it up, got him astray. And so anyway, that's where you have the split with Ishmael and Isaac, right?
Right.
And so Ishmael went off and they created the the what's the Muslim, and
Yes.
then Isaac, is the Christian part of it. So with Jesus. And so then everybody was pressuring Israel to give Palestinians a piece of land. They didn't want to do it, but they did at the pressuring of the United States. The United States was a big part of it and said, give them a piece of land. You could give it to them on the Gaza Strip. And so when they did that, they start like Israel cannot go into Gaza, but Gaza can come over into Israel and go to their holy sites. But the Israelis don't have access to that. So number one, that's not fair, right? But they gave that to them. Well, the terrorist organization of Hamas has really taken over that. And they came in and by land, air, and sea and slaughtered civilians,
Yes.
raped, pillaged, kidnapped. And so I think, are you saying that Israel and the US allowed Hamas to come in and do that to their citizens so that they could start a war?
I 100% believe that. I
Really?
100% believe that. Yeah. I
Okay.
think that governments are evil and corrupt,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't care about their nation's citizens. They care about agendas. And I think each one of these people have an agenda to fulfill.
Yeah.
And I think the easiest way to do that is to start another war.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you have to understand, I can see that in a way, although I don't agree with that perspective, but I can see your perspective because this is coming at a time where Biden has the lowest approval rating Everybody
Yes.
knows that he's just done.
Yeah.
And Netanyahu was having issues in his country as well. So the two of them coming together saying, we're going to fight evil on all forces does seem fishy. It does.
That's fishy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, you gotta, like you said, have discernment and actually like look at it. Look at it,
Yeah.
like try to be street smart for a little bit and say, hey, if you were coming at a time where you're going to be up for reelection and your country is completely divided, yeah, I mean, yeah, I can
It's
see
a
where that
possibility.
it's a possibility, right? Now, but for me, I look at it biblically. And so I
Yes.
look at it as how everything that's happened for the last 3 years is like really teed this up,
Yeah.
and in the division that we've caused, even amongst Americans. We're divided, Israel is divided. It's the
Right.
left versus the right type thing. And biblically speaking, there has to be a war that breaks out
Yeah.
and targets Israel, and the nations will not help Israel. And
Right.
so, that's where the bear from the north comes in, and then you got China from
Yeah.
the east, and
Yeah.
this is how the mark of the beast is going to be ushered in, and how the
Yeah.
Antichrist will rise to power, because the
Yeah.
Antichrist is going to create a peace treaty, blah blah
And
blah.
those kings, they march down the Euphrates from the north.
Mm,
And the Euphrates River is almost totally dried up now.
right. I heard there's only a few hundred feet left of water.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you know what? My son sent me about locust swarming back in August.
I
Yeah.
saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
many things are happening.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, for me, and I just really want to empower people to come into the will of God and do
Yeah.
what his will is for you while you're on earth right now for such a time as this. We
Yeah.
cannot get distracted off of the biggest mission that we have as believers in Yeshua is to let people know that you will find peace, and you will, I mean, this world is not our home. Our citizenship is in heaven. And, whenever he's ready to call me home, I mean, I am ready, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go hang up in the clouds and watch all this chaos happen. And then we'll come down and we'll destroy them.
Oh, I like that idea.
Yeah. I know. My friend was like, all I'm doing now is trying to get the best crown that I can. And I was like, yeah, I hear that. She said, the church will receive white linen robes. And I was like, okay, whatever, whatever. But I mean, I'm ready to go meet my father. Are you? Do
Yeah.
you feel like it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even Jesus said that when you see these things happen,
Yeah.
you know, that's your sign to know that the time is drawing near.
Yes.
And so I'm totally on board with you, just like we said at the beginning of the program, step out and have courage
Hmm.
and pursue a relationship with Jesus Christ, because really wars can break out and nukes can be dropped. But bottom line is, if you don't know where you're headed when this life is over with, that's the scary part.
Yeah,
Because you can die tomorrow in a car accident.
that's
You
right.
need to know where you're headed.
No, you know what? That's a great way to close out the show. At the end of the day, it's like that we have got to live as spiritual beings having a
Yes.
mortal experience, not
Ooh, that's
mortal
good.
beings trying to have a spiritual experience. And if you are that mortal being trying to have a spiritual experience, all you have to do is just declare that Jesus Christ is Lord and personal Savior, repent of your sins, and ask Him to come into your life and submit to His will. Guys, that's it, that easy. We talked about, courage being an action step. It is. You have to have action behind the courage, and that's the way to do it. I really appreciate your insight, Jamie, and Nurse Jamie and Jamilee, No Jab Nurse. You could find her on Instagram at No Jab Nurse, guys. And I look forward to having you on Nurses Out Loud here in the future again. It was a great conversation. But this is all the time we have for today, friends. Remember, we are here on air Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern with a different nurse host daily. Please be sure to tune in and listen to myself and my amazing sister nurses as we walk you through these topics. We want to empower, encourage, and inspire you to walk in the truth as well. And so while you're trying to do that, we're going to continue to advocate for you because we are nurses and that is what we do. I am your host, Nurse Jody O'Malley, and you can find me here every Friday. But check out our new show that will be Q&A Mondays, guys. We're mixing it up a little bit. We've heard from you, and we aim to provide. So God bless. Till next time.